Hi there, folks, and welcome to this episode of Michael's Backyard Marina. I appreciate the great response on the PolarKraft video. You guys have done a fantastic job of viewing it and leaving comments, and it's only been out a day. Not even a day. It was put out just this morning at 7:34ish a.m. and you guys have given me 492 views and 116 thumbs up. Awesome. You guys are amazing. I just, hey, one guy just left a comment here I thought was pretty interesting from Victor. Marine plywood has no voids in it like the edge of what you are using. Exterior plywood. The glue they use is the same. That's interesting to know. So the big difference is the voids. So the marine grade plywood has less voids in it. Okay, I can buy that. I did have one void that showed up on the edge of my plywood when I sawed it out. And, that could be a weak spot, obviously, especially if you're clamping in an area on your piece of plywood. I just took the exposed edge and filled it with JB Weld. That's tougher than the wood itself. So we're good to go there. But, man, you guys are fantastic. So what we're doing here, I did a 1969 Sea Nymph a while back. And I sold that boat and motor. So 1969 Sea Nymph with a 1969 20-horse Johnson, which is really cool because you look at that setup, and that setup was period correct. Both of them were 69s, and it was just a cool thing to do. So, but one thing I did, I built a casting deck on the front of it, and the casting deck was basically to make a flat seating area plus some storage. Now, I'm doing the same thing here on this PolarKraft. And you guys from the 69 Sea Nymph video said, hey, you didn't show much of how you built that. You just showed, when it was done. And I'm like, okay, so if I ever do it again, I'll go into a little more detail. And this is what this video is about today. Now, here again, I haven't bought anything that I didn't already have to build this so far. I had some treated 2x4s. Yeah, I ripped them dead in half. And then I have a piece of starboard big enough that's left over from when I did my floor in my piece of starboard. Did I get that right? A piece of starboard left over from when I did the floor in my Starcraft. Why do all these boats have star and craft in them? This is a PolarKraft. That's a Starcraft. Craft, must mean something somewhat nautical. Anyway, I can Google it. You guys can too. But anyway, I'm going to show you how I'm kind of framing this in. And now, the reason I'm doing this, I'm not trying to make this boat perfect. Let's just keep going with that theme. This boat has a new name. And the new name of this boat is called Good Enough. It's not going to be just good. It's going to be good enough. Typically, you don't want to use treated plywood where it's going to be contacting aluminum. For the simple reason is it will have a chemical reaction with the aluminum. Now, things that can keep it from having that chemical reaction can be things like paint, silicone, resin. Put some kind of barrier between what's touching the boat and what's touching the wood, So right now, this is all treated lumber pieces I had laying around. I ripped them, 2 of them in half. What I'm doing is I'm making it flush with the top of this seat. So I've got basically an inch. Let's just give you a measurement here. Yep, that's 1 5/8 inches all day long. 1 5/8 inches thick. When I put my 1/2 inch starboard on top, it's going to almost be flush with the edge of the boat. So we're going to have a deck surface that is dead flush with the edge of the boat. Now, some of you might like to, comment and say, oh man, stuff's going to roll off of there. Yep, sure can. Just don't put stuff up there that can roll off. That's that simple. You got to, keep your head in the game. You're out in the boat, in water. You got to keep your head in the game. That's all I'm saying. But this 2x cut this way because the grain is, I don't know, the grain more strong one way or the other? You bet it is. So I'm putting the grain edge, so the grain's running this way. So if you were to look at the end, I'm just saying it's less flexible, less likely to bend. And then what I'll do is I've got 2 stringers right here. Let's pull you in a little tighter here and kind of give you my you know, it's dangerous in here, but I'm gonna let you inside my head for a little bit. All right, come to get the camera, stay right there. Now basically what I've got here is stringers that run from the front seat, sits right flat on top of the front seat, coming back to here. And then I've got a piece I've cut that's the width of the boat at the top, and I've got a piece I cut at the bottom, that's the width of the boat at the bottom. I have also cut a couple pieces with some angles on it, so that this can go in here just like so. And fit really, really, really well. And what I'm going to do here now is, whoa, what did I hit? Don't mind telling you, it's a little tight in here with the boat in the shop. Okay, so what I've done here is I'm going to put some wood glue on here. Now that I know this fits, well, I'm not afraid to use a generous amount of wood glue. But we'll put the wood glue there. Make sure this is lined up, flat, looking pretty. Then I'm using these 3-inch deck screws with the Torx driver. And I'm taking that and drilling. Now the reason I'm pre-drilling all this stuff is it is less likely to split. And in this situation, there's less binding on this surface, so when the screws into the bottom piece that you're trying to fasten to it, it pulls it together better. Of course, everybody has their own personal preferences. It's just screwed and glued, right? And I'm putting two, count them, 2 in it. I've got 2 going in this way, I got 2 going down this way. The other nice thing is when I do the pre-drill is it follows the hole better, and I can drill right in between 2 screws going the other direction. There we go. Now that I've got that put together, I haven't screwed the bottom piece in yet. I'll actually slip this back out and screw that in from the bottom in, and then we'll go from there. But as you can see, now I've got a surface that's started here that's flat. As you can see here, this is creating a flat surface. I'm going right to the top of this seat. So this front part of the deck is supported by the front seat. The back part of the deck is supported by the frame I'm building here. And then I'll probably put some stringers across here. Well, that'll make strength in the middle so my board doesn't flex as much. The cool part about that, once I do that, it'll be, I can put me a trap door here that I can have. I'm turning all this into storage area. But I'm liking how it's going so far. Now I need to cut the one for the front to go across. We'll fasten that in, and then we'll just keep on going. Now there's a part of me that's really skeptical about putting that starboard for flooring on this boat. And the reason I say that is starboard, when it gets warm, grows really fast, and it grows and expands. Because I put it in my StarCraft, and on a hot day, the floor would start doing this because that starboard is riveted down to all the stringers. And when it grows, it has nowhere to go but buckle. But what I did learn, and what really works, is I put some C-deck. It's like that foam covering you put on it. And once I put the C-deck on it, the heat did not get to the floor and cause it to grow like it normally would, because, you know, just normal ambient temperature is not a big deal. But when it's getting so hot your feet can't stand to walk on it, that makes the plastic expand a lot. So I'm going to try C-deck here again since I have it. Not C-deck, starboard, since I have it. And I'm just trying to think of how I want to hook it down. But I think I'm just going to screw it down like normal. And then I'm going to cover it with that C-deck so it has a nice, you know, I could have that wood grain look to it, or whatever color I decide to put on it. I could put a camouflage color or whatever over the top of it, which will make a nice place cushion for your feet for you to walk on. Because normally when I'm in my boat, I'm barefoot, or in my sandals typically, but I'm usually take them off. But in a boat like this, where you have all these ribs and everything you're walking on, I might keep my sandals on more than I take them off. But the other nice thing about this is it's going to make it easy to get in and out of the boat because you can step right onto this deck, down onto the seat, down to the floor. Pretty minor ups and downs. You know, I'm getting older, I ain't as flexible as I used to be, but I still will go and do until I can't. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and go get me another piece of board, trim this front, and get it so it's ready to screw in. And once I get that screwed in, I'll lift it out. I'll have to lift out to screw that in, actually. I'll lift it out and screw the bottom in and then set it back in, and we'll finish doing some more framing. So far, I'm pretty happy. I'm pretty happy. And I'm probably going to take a few of these here and go kitty-cornered across, make some cross bracing in here as well. So they're, you know, try to eliminate as many soft spots in the starboard as I can. But we'll have to frame in a little box for a trap door and all that fun stuff. It's gonna be pretty cool. I ain't gonna lie, it's gonna be awesome. Alrighty, here's what we've got. This is the frame outside of the boat. It's very light since it's made out of wood. It'd also be very light if it was made out of aluminum as well. But I do have this thing so it's removable. Chances are I'm only going to put 2 bolts through the seat here to hold the front end down. And that way, you know, it won't bounce out or catch air on the front and then flop out on me. But pretty happy with how this turned out so far. It's looking really good. It's solid. The only thing I really want to do is this here, you know where the L's at? I want to brace that up a little bit more. I need to brace that up. But I've got every single joint has at least 2 3-inch long deck screws in it. It's glued in the joint. Yeah, this would have been a great application for what you call a Craig jig, but I don't have a Craig jig, so pre-drill, drill, sink it in there, and everything's good. I am pretty pleased with this. So now let's just show you. Now you're back a ways, so bear with me. But we can just lift this right up. This thing it's gonna be so solid to stand on, it's not funny. But you slide this back just a little bit so the nose can get under. And then this there we go. And right now I've got just a little bit of these boards on the front corners tucked under just a touch. So when I go to put bolts underneath there, and I can actually get to the bolts through my hatch that I'll have here. I'll pull you up closer in just a second and show you just a little bit more. Well, not just a second, let's do it right now. Now, in the interest of being simple, that's what this is. This is all simple. Now, I do have like an 18 by 18 inch opening here. Maybe it's somewhere around there, 50. I don't know. Here, I'll tell you what I got. This is like 22 1/8 by 18. And what I'll do here is I'll lay this framework on top of my starboard. And that way I can trace it out when I'm getting ready to put it on. But the cool part, really cool part is I can now take cardboard and I'm gonna lay it up against here. And I can staple it all the way down and around, and I can cut my starboard to fit perfectly on top of this. So when this is all in, it's gonna be perfect. But then the other cool part is I can trace this inside here, and then what I'll do is I'll take the starboard and I'll make it come overlap this about half, all the way around, so that when the hatch opens this way, opens up this way, and when it comes down, it'll be setting on all this structure here. And so, you know, there again, that's probably the biggest opening I've got on this whole thing that the starboard would have to flex, and that's fine. Starboard is very strong, very flexible, but I am pleased with it so far. But there, I'm hoping I'm giving everybody enough detail as to how it's done. It's just you know, back and forth to the wood shop, cut, trim, cut, measure, cut, you know, until you got your frame put in here like this. Now, I did leave it, you know, I probably got, what have I got here? I didn't want it right up tight to the seat. I've got probably 3 inches, 3 and 3/8 inches from the front of this frame to the seat. I'm also going to cover this front here in starboard as well. So this will be a completely enclosed unit. And this, you can see, you can put a lot of life jackets in here. You can put a battery box up under here that you can access. You can put your anchor, any other types of stuff you want to have on the boat while you're transporting it that won't fly out. That's the whole idea behind this, is just a good storage spot where my stuff won't fly out while I'm transporting it to the lake to test a new outboard. Alrighty, let's catch you up to where we're at right now at this moment in time. So what I've done here is I put the cross braces in here as you saw before, and I put these other braces here. So it's gonna, close this opening up a little bit, so when the starboard's here, it's got more support. And then I've taken cardboard and I've stapled it to the wooden frame, so I can take my utility knife and cut around the boat and get a rough shape of what the inside of the boat is. So this top, when I put it on there, will come right out to the edge, which is going to make it really nice when I do decide to put a trolling motor on here maybe in the future. Then I've got a surface that's already flush up here to mount a trolling motor onto. It's going to be awesome. So now what I'll do is take this, lift it out. I'm going to bring the starboard in here, lay this on top of it, and then I can trace around and get my shape. And then I can get a hold of it with my saw, and we can have it back in here on top, looking pretty cool. Now let's just do a quick recap of what all we've got invested in here. So far, I've chopped up 2x4 is about 6 foot, 6.5 foot tall. I chopped up another, it was probably a 2x10 that I had laying around here. Stripped that up into the same size pieces. And I've still got 3 strips on the floor here that I'll just hang on to them until another project comes along. But very little investment here, very strong. I can tell you what, when you screw and glue stuff together like this, it has an immense amount of strength. And then the other part I've got into it is some leftover cardboard that used to be some targets. And then my starboard is something I had left over from another project. So now if you were to use a sheet of plywood, and even if you bought a 3/4 inch thick plywood, it'd be about $50 roughly to put that sheet of plywood on here. And then what I would do with plywood is I would cover it in resin. And I would take this whole frame out and just paint this whole frame up with resin just to seal it up. Just keep it from absorbing any kind of moisture whatsoever. And then the starboard is going to protect the surface of it from getting any more moisture into it, because I am going to put resin on this top surface between this and the starboard. And then the starboard's going to act like a roof, basically. Not a lot of moisture is going to get in here unless you get caught in the rain. And typically my son and I, when we go out testing outboards, we don't do it in the rain. We're fair weathered boaters, let's just say it. Let's call it what it is. Because the drone doesn't fly well in the rain. It's not recommended. And I don't like to get soaking wet. So, unless it's, over 90 degrees. So, that's just going to work out pretty good. I'm excited to get the top on here. And what I'll do too is on this, I'll lay this down on the starboard as well. And I'll cut a piece, screw on this front face, and then this whole thing will be completely enclosed. Only thing that can get in there after that is mice. And by golly, we'll set traps from those jokers. All right. Let's get ready to bring some starboard in here and lay it on top of the boat and use it for a working surface. Here's the progress so far, boys and girls. We've got the frame underneath it. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 screws basically holding it down to the frame, because what I'm going to have to do is lift the whole works out. And even if I didn't lift it all the way out, I think I can sneak it out though. And then I'm going to mark the door opening on the other side, and then I'll be able to saw it and then put it back together And but it's looking pretty good, and I ain't kidding you. This is going to be stronger than strong. I did take my bullnose rounder tool and run me a radius all the way around this edge, so I don't have a sharp edge here anywhere. That's nice. I'll actually bring up my other piece here up flush, and then I'll blend it with my blending tool, and then I'll round it. But so far, so good. That's making quite the change. Oh, added a little bit of tongue weight too, which, you know, these old John boats could use a little tongue weight. Well, folks, here's where we're at right now. So what I've done is I've, excuse me, lifted up this framework, flipped it upside down when this piece was screwed down to it. Took my Sharpie, drew around the interior hole size. This, my boards are 1.5 inches wide, so what I did is I marked a line 3/4 of an inch out from this here. What that'll do is it'll allow me to have part of my frame supporting this piece and part of my frame supporting the lid. Now the tricky part is just to cut it straight. Boy, I have a tough time with this, but we're gonna give it a whirl. Let's see how I do. This is nerve-wracking. We're gonna plunge cut it and see what we can do to make this work. One down. Now you folks might be wondering what I'm doing here. Well, I'm gonna bring you a little closer and give you an idea of how things are really going over here. What we're doing in this part of let's just call it the good enough program, is I'm putting resin. Yeah, resin. And I'm not gonna cover the whole thing in resin because, as you guys know, treated wood cannot go against aluminum. It would cause a chemical reaction that is not favorable to the boat. So what I'm doing is I'm putting a layer of resin down on this side of the treated material. So I'll have a barrier, as you will, against one, the chemical reaction of the treated wood and the aluminum. Two, this is also areas where water could congregate and absorb up into my frame and do unspeakable things to my frame. So that's why I'm covering it this side in resin. I'm not going to cover the whole thing in resin, just the parts that are pointing down and that can come in contact with my aluminum. So we're getting really close to having something really cool here that we'll see here before too long. Man, this stuff is drinking it up. Now I've gotten all the areas that contact aluminum covered in resin. The bottom front, the sides that could potentially touch. So that's, you know, that's all the treatment I'm gonna do. I'm not worried about making all this wood water cured, watertight, because most of it's gonna be exposed to open air. So if it does get wet, it'll dry out relatively quick because it's not contacting anything. The other part of it is it's gonna be covered by a sheet of plastic. And once that sheet of plastic is on there, you know, it's kind of like putting your overhang on your buildings. You don't go and paint the underside of your overhangs in your building. You just leave that natural wood, and it lasts for many, many many, many decades. So that's kind of the premise I'm going with here. But I am protecting this boat from the chemical reaction of the treated wood. Would I have done that? Normally I wouldn't have even, what the heck, that smell. One of the things I wouldn't have normally done is built this out of treated wood. But treated wood's what I had. It's what I had laying around. So, you know, when in France, build pyramids. So that's what I did. All right. We're having a good time here. This is fun. We're going to let this dry overnight. Tomorrow night we'll be back out here. We'll flip this thing back down. We're going to put the top back on. We're going to put the front that I cut out back on, which you haven't seen yet, that covers it up. We're going to set the lid back in place. And I still got to buy me some hinges. I haven't decided on what kind of hinges I want, but definitely going to put some hinges on there so we can open and close this thing. And then I'm going to have to cover it with something. Something like C-deck or EVA foam or something like that I want to cover it in. And whatever I covered in, I also want to cover the tops of all my seats in it too. So that'll make it look like something, you know, better than it has to be. But it will be good enough for the good enough boat. All right. We're going to check out of here and we're going to let this cure. And I'm going to get me some fresh air. All right, we've got our board screwed back down on top. I've screwed another piece of starboard to the front here, and we'll show you that in a minute. But I want to blend it off. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with a tool like this. It's just a handheld router. I picked this one up at Harbor Freight. I don't use routers that often, so I didn't want to spend a lot of money. So far, this one seems to be working really well. I've got a flat bit with a bearing on the end. And what that allows you to do is to plant this thing down flat against this surface, and the bearing will let it cut it flush to this surface. And I'm going to shallow this up just a little bit because I don't want to have it sticking down too far. We'll just do a little adjustment here. And we'll put it right there. And this does throw quite a bit of stuff around, but right there I'll be able to run this right along the edge here. And the cool part is they'll blend this part that's sticking up down to this surface. I did the same thing on the board when I put this one down. I ran it along the board so it blended with the board. So now we're ready to do that one more time. Let's see how this turns out. Which way is it spinning? I kind of want to come this way with it. Okay. Now the cool part is that's perfectly flush with that surface. Yes, there's a little gap there, but I don't care about the gap. I like the fact that it's flush and not sticking up. And then what I'll do is I'll take my corner rounding bit and I'll run it through here and round that over so I don't have a sharp edge here. Plus, if I got some material, I might be able to wrap it around here and cover this with either carpet, EVA foam, C-deck, something of that nature. So I'm going to do the other half, and we'll be back when I do the corner rounding part. All right, now we won't speak of this gap I have on either side because, I used the piece of starboard I had and it went this far. And guess what? An anchor, a life jacket, or any other kind of stuff I'm going to have in this hatch area cannot get out of there. So I'm good with that. I might cut a piece. I don't know yet. I just don't know. Don't harass me about it, okay? But now I've got the corner rounding bit in here and I've got it adjusted so it should put a nice soft edge on here for me and make it nice. And let's just go for it. Here we go. Man, that makes it nice. We're getting down to where we're getting close to, calling this project done for now, maybe. I picked up 2 of these hinges, You guys can pick whatever hinge you want. These are zinc plated. You can buy brass. You can buy whatever you want. This is, if I put different holes in here later, it's not going to hurt anything. It's plastic. And I'm going to be covering it with something. So, you know, settle down if you're thinking I'm just doing it all wrong. But I will give you some advice on starboard. Pre-drill. Now, if you think you're going to take your screw gun and just run this screw right on down in there, you're going to disappoint yourself. My experience with starboard so far is if you try to do that, you will go in so far, and then these will load up, these flutes will load up, and then they'll spin out, and it'll strip, and it'll leave you with a hole that won't hold a screw part way down. You don't want that, so don't do that. Anyway, that's a little bit of advice from me to you. And then I take my handy dandy, you know, my self-rebuilt screw gun here, and we'll just throw, and I just take it easy. You're not trying to put ugga-duggas on this. It's small screws, it's plastic. What I'm advising is, you know, just use if you don't have good judgment, use my judgment here. Because you make no mistake, you strip out 2 or 3 of these while your friends are standing around drinking beers, you're going to give them a lot to laugh at. Don't be that guy. That's what I'm saying. Don't be that guy. What? Well, that's locked in and looking good, boys. Now let's just back off and show you some action here. And girls, don't want to leave you out. I did look at my statistics, and 6% of my viewers are ladies. And I appreciate that. Now if it's a situation where the lady has a YouTube account and the guys are watching it, shame. Go get your YouTube account and subscribe so I get more subscribers. That's all I'm saying. Let's just see. Look at that. Bam. Whoops. Took a little bit of wood with that screw. Now, these are sticking through just a touch, which, that's fine. Because I got a screw point remover right over here. Woo! Nice. There we go. We got the hatch screwed down. We got the hinge in place. And all you folks out there, what you see right here is a piece of old ratchet strap. Don't throw your old ratchet straps away. If you got a knot in it, it ain't safe anymore, save the material, because look what I just did here. I made a soft loop here. And then I put a notch in my wood down here so this thing would lay down flush. But that's an easy thing to grab and open and flip this thing wide open. You can lay it back. It's not in your way. You got this little doohickey up here, not a problem. You know, I'm just saying this is a good idea. Use it. Yep, that's going to work great. The other thing, you know, somebody might say, why don't you put a knob there? Why don't you put a handle, big old grab handle? Well, because if I throw my knee down on this, that's not going to hurt. I catch my knee or I catch my shoe walking around on this thing on a handle. I'm going on the pavement or I'm going in the water or I'm going in the face down in the boat. None of those have great outcomes. I'm just telling you, it doesn't have a great outcome. But yeah, this is like, you know, you can put all your body weight on that because it is supported all the way around here. with lots of sturdy 1.5" wood, just like the rest of the deck. That's why I designed and do it this way. Now, when I put this in here, I crowded the lid back, so it's almost seamless here. There's a seam, obviously, but I left the biggest gap up here. Why? Because if you don't, sometimes, depending on what you got to do, it may not lift up easy. This is not the case with 1/2 inch, but I just, out of practice, I did it this way. I am tickled with how this looks and how it turned out. Will I address these openings here in the future? Maybe, maybe not. For the simple fact, nothing that I'm going to be hauling in here can fit out and get out of here. And if it does get out, then now it's shame on me. I may cut another piece. I got more starboard here. I may cut a piece and patch that in there on both sides, but right now it will serve the purpose. The cool part is I can call this front hatch and this front deck complete. And when I say the word complete, I mean good enough, because this boat is called the Good Enough. And I can keep doing more and more things to it down the road. Right now, if I'm looking to get this boat out of my shop, get a boat cover back on it, I'm back at that state. You know, I brought this boat into the shop to put the transom on so I'd be out of the weather that's unpredictable outside this time of year. It's cold, it's overnight freezing, and I could actually finish everything on that transom I needed to finish. That's been done. Then it sparked me. Man, I got some wood laying around here. Let's just walk around the marina here and see what do I have that I could put something like this together with. And lo and behold, I found all this stuff here, right? The only purchased item that I didn't have here was that hinge, these 2 hinges. That's the only thing I had to buy that I didn't already have here because of other projects. You know, I had the wood glue. Obviously, I had the starboard. I had the wood. I had the strap. I had the screws left over from other projects. I mean, and the resin was left over from the transom. So, you know, this would have cost a lot more money, obviously, if I had to buy starboard. Now, I wouldn't buy starboard. It's too expensive. But it's left over from another project where I put a floor in a boat. And it's been sitting back there for a good 2.5 to 3 years, leaning up, doing nothing for me. No plans to put it in another boat. So I'm like, well, this is a perfect application. So that's what I did. Just taking all that into consideration. Look what I've done here. I've got a place now, if I want to, I can step on that seat there, step right up onto here, and look at things in the water if I so desire. This is a flat enough surface here. We could land a drone. You wouldn't even have to catch it. You could land a drone on it if you so desired. Actually catching it is better because the boat and the drone, you know what I'm saying. But yeah, I am thrilled. I like how this turned out. There again, is it color matched to anything? Nope. Is it functional? Yep. And you know I take form? Nope. Let's get that right. I take function over form every day. You know, pretty is pretty. That's great. You know, I got the Cobalt boat that you guys at 19, I think it was 83 Cobalt. Is that right? Yeah, 83 Cobalt, I believe it is. I got that boat. That's my pretty boat in my life. All the other boats are functional. Yeah, the Banana's pretty too. But I've got plenty of not pretty in my life when it comes to boat and outboards. So I'm happy either way. If pretty happens to happen, I'll accept it. Anyway, where was I going with that? I have no idea. But I am telling you, this is done. I can put the cover back on my boat here and I can get it back outside so I can start on the jack plate for this thing. That's all I got left for the boat itself is a jack plate. So I can run long and short shaft outboards on this particular unit here because the Good Enough is going to be my test boat for running all these outboards. It's stable. I can prepare yourself. You're going to hear it the first time here. I have a boat that can go on the water this spring when the water's less firm, if you know what I'm saying, that can handle Frankenstein. Yeah, that's right, Frankenstein. If you guys don't know what Frankenstein is, I'm not going to tell you because you just have to look through my videos and find Frankenstein, the outboard motor that I created. Oh, one last thing before I sign off here, folks, is I'm announcing the winner of yet another hat. People that left comments in a video that I did about 2 to 3 videos ago, probably 2 videos ago. I said, if you leave a comment, you're in the drawing for a hat. Now, one gentleman says, hey, I just like watching what you do. Don't put me in the drawing for the hat. Appreciate that. But the winner is, and I'm going to tell you how I picked the winner, folks. It's not scientific at all. I've got the whole list on my screen, right, of all the comments. And I'd turn my head right, and I scroll up, and I scroll down, and I scroll up, and I scroll down, and I stop. And I look and see where my cursor is on the screen. And this time it fell on Richard Cranium. Yep, Richard Cranium. Go into one of my videos and look at the description. My email's in there. Reach out to me that way. We'll exchange some pleasantries, and I'll get your address, and I'll get your, long as you're in the continental United States, give me your address, and I'll ship you out a hat. Also, I had one gentleman ask me if I'd sign the underside of the hat before I sent it to him, so I did that. If that's what you want, I can do that. If you don't care about autographs, that's fine too. You're going to get yourself an official RMD Creations camouflage hat. Ain't broke, fix it till it is, written on the front of it in bright orange thread. I think I like the hats myself. They fit good. They fit this head. I mean, this head's a mess and it fits it. So, all right. So, Richard Cranium, thank you for leaving the comments, and much appreciated. And folks, don't forget to subscribe, hit that thumbs up. You guys have loved this PolarKraft boat, the series so far, where I rescued it, did the transom, and now we're going to do this. It's been getting a lot of views, a lot of thumbs ups, and I can't thank you enough for doing that. It's much appreciated. We're going to continue on doing things here of, let's just call it this magnitude. I got a potential sponsor coming on board, and this sponsor, because I'm kind of a stickler about this, and you know, this channel is about educating, sharing, doing things like this, helping people that are in this type of hobby. So me giving you, and I'm not throwing shade on anybody else that does it. I'm just saying, you know, I'm not gonna get you, you know, a gaming advertisement unless they pay me a lot of money. Now I can be bought. Let's not fool. We can all be bought to a certain degree, but my big focus is for you folks to have information that helps you in this hobby, in the boat world, and that's what I've got somebody coming on board possibly as a sponsor that has a lot of, let's just call it, they got boat parts, they got outdrives, they got outboard parts and stuff like that, and we might be getting hooked up with some really cool stuff that I can educate and share with you folks and turn you on to some really, really awesome products. But anyway, yet to be determined, yet to see what they're going to do with me. But I'm excited that you guys have helped me grow the channel to a level by your viewership and your thumbs up to get me to a point in this YouTube venture that I'm on to get some really cool stuff to share with you guys and just make the channel, just enhance it, make it that much better. All right, enough said. You guys get out there and have some fun. Stay, you know, warm if you're in Iowa or in the Midwest, because it's an unusually warm January, let's call it, but it ain't always this way. Still can't get out in the lakes and do water fun yet. So this is Michael saying, if it ain't broke, fix it till it is. We'll see you on the next video. Be good to one another.